trigger happy and I give less than a fuck. Love me or hate me, I'ma show enough, rip shit up. It's Mr. Nothing, nice on a mic stand. Mic in the left and the zest in my right hand. I took a puff, had enough now, hold up. If that was Indo, niggas getting rolled up.
What's going on, folks? Acid Roots here. So I'm going to review Twiztid's third major official release, Mirror Mirror. Now this is their first extend EP, and like I said, third major release after Most Tasteless and then Freek Show. I need to eventually get to Most Tasteless, but I reviewed Freek Show about 6.5 years ago, and it's been since early 2016 since I've covered anything by Twiztid. And I wanted to get some more stuff. I followed Twiztid on Instagram, and they talked about the 20-year anniversary of this project, and I said, I didn't even know that Twiztid dropped an EP, and really they've dropped several, but I definitely wanted to go to like the next go-to project after Freek Show, considering how often I listen to Freek Show and how much that project resonates with me. So I figured if this is kind of relative to the kind of vibes that they had around the Freek Show era, I would kind of think that this would be the project to hit up. And I was basically right. It continues their kind of creepy and ghoulish type attitude that they had with Freek Show. Although I kind of wish it would have had a single or some sort of music video to promote this project. I mean, really, it's difficult to kind of approach talking about this project very much. This is probably going to be a shorter review just because there's not really much of any promotion. I mean, the thing about Twiztid was not only were they underground, but they were also in the Juggalo community also, which is not a bad thing by any means, but the concept behind it is it was very difficult for Twiztid to kind of get promotion just because they were kind of off to the side in like a more very much kind of they were off to the side in very much a more kind of damaged and kind of more like moody kind of climate in like the Juggalo culture, and that's kind of the situation. Definitely Juggalo culture, for those who completely don't know, thrives in like the horrorcore and more kind of ghoulish and kind of overcast kind of reality in most parts. I mean, just go into things like Gathering of the Juggalos, although I haven't been, can kind of showcase to you some of that sort of stuff, but it definitely has like a particular vibe. And I would have thought, considering that this was like the third release from them as they were starting to blow up more, I think Freek Show was very successful and it got pretty close. They at least got a music video with We Don't Die from that album, but I was kind of expecting like some sort of like bona fide. I mean, when most people put out an EP, it generally has something that encourages a type of attitude to fuck with it, because for the most part it's kind of like an interim point until the next album comes out, and that's kind of the thing. It was definitely clever of Twiztid to do it, but I would have liked some sort of like, like something that could have anchored this project down. Now the music is good. To talk about, well, if it's like, well, is this project good, not just so much about the promotion, it is good, but like I said, it doesn't have like a selling point, and that's kind of the problem, is you have to strictly like the music just as they do as a group, more so than actually saying, oh hey, I've heard that song somewhere else. And that's kind of the problem, is it's just not very like siren like and trying to alarm you and get you notified that this project was even out. I mean, the fact that it's been 20 years. But so yeah, there's a number of good tracks on here. I kind of feel like the first 5 songs that you hear really hit the nail on the head. This is another, like, Twiztid is 2 for 2 for me in terms of album intros. Like, I really liked the album intro from Freek Show. That was a real creepy and kind of, this really kind of, it was a creepy and very emphatically descript, eerie type feel towards that, and I felt like Mirror was another one that kind of did that. Just kind of like a ghastly and kind of felt like a rage fit type attitude, where the guy was kind of getting, pissed off, and it just kind of conveyed with the problems that he was going through. That was kind of like, yeah, it was sensible. It wasn't just random rage. It was just kind of like, it's an entry point to the standard mind of a Juggalo around that time and what they dealt with. So that's 2 for 2 for Twiztid. I'm starting to really like their intros. Like, I like the sparkling keys on the World song. That production was pretty good. It just felt like a real, I mean, a lot of these songs feel like something you could listen into September, October, November. They just feel like something around like a campfire or some sort of October kind of you know, some sort of October campfire where you would just have like blunts lit and that type stuff and just kicking it back in like the night skies and that type stuff, telling stories, that type nonsense, having beers. It just has like some good vibes. It definitely felt like the World did that. Alone really felt like a song that just was like a pure, pretty hazed out, felt like a real hazed out kind of session with not just smoking, but even supposing like tripping acid or something like that. But yeah, I mean, just a lot of these have like a real kind of powwow type feel to them that I think is really kind of affable in a lot of ways. Like Through Your Eyes, I felt like could have been the closest thing to the single. This was probably the most polished song on here, the one that sounded the closest to breaking through their normal underground type feel. I really kind of like the I don't know if it was piano in the backdrop of that song, but just kind of the keys in that song had like a real kind of undertone that worked really well. I mean, to me, it felt like the closest they probably would have charted since We Don't Die and like Fall Apart, those type songs with that sort of mannerism. I'm glad that they at least attempted it, but at least one or two songs from this project could have used a music video. I would have picked Through Your Eyes in the World. Those would have been the ones I would have went for. For those of you who had a real kind of creepy mansion type feel, felt like some sort of abandoned mansion or something like that. This kind of reminded me of like some sort of like Adam's Family type creepy kind of movie type thing just about it, just within that sort of general spookiness, and I appreciated that. Reflection had a real kind of ghoulish kind of moan towards it that I appreciated in there. So there's just some overall good stuff on here that has a lot of moments, but I do feel like this EP was kind of overstuffed. There were some awkward kind of production on here that just didn't contribute to much. Like Left Field, I was kind of disappointed by that song. Just the overall awkward kind of vibe to that. Violent J could have been on a better song. I would have almost thrown him on like Through Your Eyes or The World. One of those type songs would have worked better for him. Dirty Little Girl kind of came off as just like a flimsy kind of song for the ladies. It's really the only song for the ladies on here, but it just kind of felt more of like, just gotten done with the fuck session and now it's like, I gotta go. Not really in the mood for this, but um, I don't know. It was just, I mean, the production was kind of mellow and almost good, but I felt like the deliverance of that probably could have been a little bit better. They could have thrown that together somewhat better. I mean, it's supposed to be kind of like a left field and kind of more just low key kind of song for the ladies, but its delivery was more like C plus range. I just felt like that could have been a better song for the ladies. There's been better songs for that. I think even on like Freak Show, they had some songs that did a better job. If I mean, I don't remember now, but I would say. And CNT was kind of an awkward kind of sounding one. I mean, the beat was good, but it was just the delivery of that one was kind of different. Also, I felt like. Uh, there's just, basically after the song Through Your Eyes it's kind of like a hodgepodge of songs that don't really match and there's just too much going on and the awkwardness of some of these kind of comes together and I feel like it should have had a better structure and placement compared to some of their more dynamite moments like What's That, Left Field, and like You're the Reason kind of had that. Now I like the beat on You're the Reason, but they kind of wasted the lyrics on here just by congratulating their fans and saying you're the reason why I keep going and stuff. I mean, if they had taken that beat and given that song like a better kind of topic. I mean, I know that they wanted to congratulate their fans and stuff, but I really felt like that probably could have been on a different song just because that beat was such a good one. I would have liked for them to have like some creepy type song and just been like, hey, this is me like talking my normal spooky shit that I normally kind of do. So it just didn't really have that, but it just felt like a missed opportunity. But there's just a number of moments on here that were kind of awkward and plain had too much going on. So, but I'll go ahead and list to you the seven are the 6 songs out of 11 that I recommend to you. So really, it's really just 5, but one of them is of course the intro. So all right, so for those of you, Mirror, the intro song, or the intro skit, Reflection, The World, Alone, and Through Your Eyes. So those are the 6 I recommend. Basically, I've talked about a number of these on here. The World and Through Your Eyes to me have the best beats on here, the most creepy and immediately approachable, that kind of continue like the Freak Show vibes. I feel like Reflection is probably the most horrorcore sounding on here. And for those of you, is another good one, like on some Brother Lynch and Blaze You Dead Homie type vibes, those type folks. Just typical kind of autumn creepiness that you would find. And then Alone just felt like a drug trip song, like I was telling you before. So that's kind of the thing. So there's just a number of moments on here. I really would have picked You're the Reason had that had a different topic. I mean, I felt like the beat was pretty emphatic and just a good moment, but didn't quite deliver enough because they chose to be more kind of earnest about it and that type thing. So, but all right, so me liking 5 out of 10 songs, 6 out of 11 if you count the intro. I'm gonna give this album like a 5.5 out of 10. I think it's just about middle of the road. It's kind of lacking somewhat just in the overall impact. And like I said, another reason why I detract from the score is just because the promotion of this project was just not enough to really get going. I feel like this early on, they should have had like something that could have anchored this and said, hey, this is the reason why you bought this. I mean, I think in some cases they were just saying, hey, it's more Twiztid. This is like the shot in the arm, and this is the rage pack that you need to get you through the next year or so before we come back for real. But they, really between like late 2000 and mid 2003 when they dropped, like, I think it was called the Green Book that they dropped in 2003. That was still a relatively long time to go for them to not have any sort of single out that could have really anchored them and kind of given people stuff to talk about. So maybe they just kept their popularity going just sheerly with like the gathering of the Juggalo appearances and guest appearances on like ICP projects. But I mean, really, when I talk about Twiztid, the problem I have with them is just I cannot think of like their greatest hits. I mean, I think of songs like I Fall Apart, We Don't Die, and those type songs that are generally the most popular. To me, like another one would be People Are Strange, their brilliant cover song off of Freak Show. But for the most part, it's very selective because everyone's different as to what they think. And that's kind of annoying. I always prefer it when they just have like their solidified hits that everyone agrees on. But this project did little in trying to solidify that, and it kind of, to me, takes a toll, kicks it down a few notches as a result. But yeah, I give it a 5.5 out of 10. And the social score, I would have to just give like a 1 out of 10, just because there is no single. I mean, I would almost not even score it, but I feel like it needs to be kind of as like a toll taken, just because they should have had something that should have mapped out this project so more people would have found out about it and, been able to digest and figure out and kind of have like a ambient opinion as to what to do with it. So that's kind of the thing. In terms of the future, as far as what Twiztid has been up to, they dropped an album in September of 2021, which did pretty outstanding. That actually got some of their first charting songs that I had seen on the radio. I bought that project, and it's fairly enjoyable. I mean, that's some of their best moments. They don't really, I mean, it's just good. I mean, that's kind of the concept. There's some good stuff there, but this is definitely a good, like, shot in the arm, definite kind of rage pack for Twiztid in between the 3 years that they took off. But I still feel like it just needed something to kind of have as a selling point.